here we are talking about help, I'm burning out as a facilitator. Okay, so the good thing about burning out, anyone can think of any good thing about burning out? This is a very weird question. What is good about burning out? You are doing your best. Okay? Any other good things? Okay. Obviously, there's nothing very good about it. But a good thing I was thinking of, it's not a good thing, but is that when you're burning out, it means that previously you were burning. You have to burn out. Right? You have to burn out. If you were never really on fire, you won't burn out. Yeah, you will never burn out. If you just you won't face this issue of burning out. But assuming this is very accurate because you are here on a Sunday morning, you are probably burning to a certain level. Hopefully, it's something that is sustainable rather than something that will cause you to burn out. So, what is burnout really? Okay, anyone have any thoughts about what is burnout? Feel like you're extremely tired of what you're doing. Wow, you sound very experienced, very, very dangerous. Okay. Don't like to socialize anymore. Wow, another one sounds very, very experienced. Okay, very concerning. Anyone else? Negative thinking, don't want to do anything. Okay, anyone else? Physically, mentally, spiritually, you feel like exhausted. Wow, okay. So, of course, I mean, all this is what, I guess maybe all of you have felt burnout not all, some of you have felt burnout to one level or another. And, okay, how many of you have felt burned out before? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So here is the official definition. So burnout is a form of exhaustion caused by constantly feeling swamped. It's a result of excessive and prolonged emotional, physical, and mental stress. So burnout keeps you from being productive. It reduces your energy, making you feel hopeless, cynical, and resentful. Right? So suddenly you find yourself complaining a lot more. Right? Suddenly you find yourself not feeling much hope for the future. Right? So the effects of burnout can hurt not only your work, but your home also and your social life. Just now a few people say you don't feel like talking to people. You don't feel like socializing. Right? So this is quite dangerous. Right? So just now you all answered this question. Have you felt burnout before? Maybe let's talk a bit. If you have felt burnout, what do you think contributed to your burnout? Is there anything that contributed to you feeling burnt out?
When I don't see results.
When you don't see results, okay? Lack of sleep and rest. Yeah. Under stress, too much stress, right? When you feel yourself away or distant from God, okay? Okay. Then what do you think helps improve your feeling of burnout? Devotion. Praying. Okay? Holiday. Holiday, yes? Okay. Any other things?
Receive bonus from boss.
receive bonus from boss, okay? Anything else you think helps? Talk to somebody. Okay. So, although it seems like the answer is usually the reverse, like, okay, what contributes to your burnout? Maybe you say lack of sleep contributes to your burnout. But sleeping more does not mean it will help cure or help you revert back to your non-burnout stage, right? It seems like it should be so, but it may not be so. Because once you are in it, it's harder to get out, right? So like anything health-related, it's easier to prevent than to cure, right? So, let me share my experience. I don't know why they asked me to share this. Maybe they know some things. Okay, I was very, very burnt out during COVID times. Yeah, from 2020 to 2021, I was severely burnt out. I had to go see a psychologist to go and to find out what's wrong, how to get out of it, and things like that. It was during COVID era. If you remember, the church almost every few weeks we changed the regulations, right? We'll message and say, oh, sorry, this week you can't have worship. This week you can have worship, cannot have Sabbath school. This week you can have worship, but only can have 5 people in one group, or only 2 people in one group. So even in the family, you can't really have that. You have 1 meter, or this week there's only streaming and things like that. So it becomes very, very disruptive, and it's disruptive enough for the members. It's worse for me as a pastor, because I have to organize all of this, and I have to deal with all of this, right? So all this busyness is very meaningless, right? Because you make a change, after every few weeks, the whole thing changes again. And after every few weeks, the thing changes again, right? And you are busy basically for nothing much. Right? It's just to meet up with the requirements. Yeah. So after that, it caused me also to think about what I've done. Yeah. That's why now I'm in charge of discipleship, and I really speak for discipling, for focusing on people rather than programs. Because this year I've pastored for about 11 years now, and for the first 8-9 years, I've been running a lot of programs. Yeah, and I think I'm quite decent at running programs, but I realized that it is good for that time, but it doesn't lead anywhere else. Yeah, if there's no proper follow-up and no proper discipling that is being done. Yeah, so I feel like, wow, this progress, like this meaninglessness, is very dangerous. So it cost me, right? So one level is the regulations. The other level is that I reflected, okay, what am I supposed to do as a pastor? Right? I've learned it from the Bible that the pastor is supposed to equip the members for ministries, right? Equip the members to do God's work. Then I realized that a lot of times the pastor is expected to do a lot of the members' work, and then the members support the pastor when it should be the other way around. So it made me, in English they call it, there's a values clash or conflict. Right? Internally, I believe I should be doing this, but end up I'm doing another thing. Right? And it's especially dangerous when what you are doing is not for the money. Today we are talking about burnout in church, where most of you or none of you are doing it for the money. Right? In fact, you are giving money and doing God's work. So at work, you would still take it because you feel that's not my end goal. My end goal may not be the purpose. My end goal is to get the salary. Right? So you feel like whatever lah, I deal with it. But in church, your value and purpose is very focused. You know what you want, why you want to do it, and what you want to do it for. Right? So it becomes very dangerous when you go into this territory. The values clash become worse and more deepened. So, okay. Right? So there's COVID, there was clash of values, and there was overload of responsibilities. How many of you feel overloaded in church now? Only one. Okay, very good. Okay, so it's very good thing. Okay, so when I went to see the psychologist, I talked to the psychologist for a while, blah, blah, blah. Then I thought the psychologist would tell me, you should do this, you should take a break, you should go exercise, you should eat better, blah, 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 whatever, right? The psychologist asked me, can your church hire one more person or not? Yeah. I was quite shocked because it was something very interesting and very practical in some ways, but also not practical because we don't really have the budget to do so at that time, right? So when you are facing burnout, sometimes you also have to think of the practical aspect, right? Are you overloaded, right? Is it reasonable, right? So that's that fine balance between burning and firing up and burning out, that you have to see where are you in your life and how much you can give, right? And also, on top of that, I went for more physical health check because, as you can see, my size is I'm a very round person. I was a rounder person, and I have some issues, right? I realized I have sleep apnea. Like sleep apnea is like you are choking in your sleep. So I never really got good rest. Yeah. So I believe this has gone on for like 4 or 5 years before I really got that discovered and treated. Yeah. Then it becomes a vicious cycle. Recently, I also discovered for my wife. Some of you know my wife. She's like always very tired. Right? So some people are very like, why you so tired? Why you? Is it because of your spiritual issue? Right? Is it because of your you do not exercise, things like that? Then just recently, a few months back, we realized she has severe anemia, like very severe. So immediately at the doctor's, Dr. Pei asked her, okay, you need to go to the A&E. So we went to A&E. She has to be hospitalized for about 4 days. She did blood transfusion and things like that. And throughout that, and she thought we still have to do follow-ups to see how to deal with it because her blood count is like almost half of a normal person. Yeah. So the doctor was saying like, wow, how do you survive until now? So there's the spiritual layer, there's the occupational layer, but there's also the physical layer, right? So I sound very old saying this, but sometimes you also need to check on your physical health to see if it is okay. Sometimes you have things that you feel like, oh, maybe this is mental, maybe this is emotional, maybe this is spiritual, but sometimes it is physical, right? So investing time to maintain your physical health is also important. Yeah. So to me, these are things that in my experience of burning out, how I try to recover, it takes a lot of energy and time to really get out of it. If you go into a very deep burnout, it's very hard to come out. So I talked to the conference leadership. I say that also things like my strengths, what are my areas of strengths, where I feel more value to do in. Then I shifted to another role. Right? I was pastor in what was Jurong Chinese Church. Now it is part of Jurong Church. And then I moved into discipleship to do discipleship director. So at the time, the work is more focused. I'm able to push for that a bit more. So occupationally, it helped. And with that, it released probably some stress, and it helped me to be able to exercise more, to choose better diet, right? So some of you who know me can see me like I'm still not slim, but I'm slimmer, right? And things like that. So I would say, like, some people will ask me, like, do you think you are fully recovered from burnout? I would say maybe like 70%, right? It takes very long. You see, since 2020, 2021, it has been about 2 years already. It takes very long to really get out. So I think you really need to be careful, because people who serve, people who are dedicated, they tend to drive themselves into a very deep hole, right? Because you keep giving and keep giving and keep giving, even until you're empty and you keep giving. It is very then when you want to get out, wow, you realize it is so hard to get out. Yeah. So, okay. So I have this question for us to discuss. Maybe we just discuss as a whole hall, huh? Okay. What steps do you think we can take to reduce burnout in church, especially in small group facilitators? Accountability partner.
Someone who can tell you if you stepping outside the danger zone.
How do you practically find an accountability partner? Within the facilitators. So maybe in your care group, does all care group have core groups? Right? So maybe within the core groups. I think that's a very good answer. So don't make the core group just about business only, but also there's a concern on each other's spirituality. Right? So I think that's very good. Yeah. When I was burnt out, a few people can notice it. I think you can see when people are burnt out, people will come to me and say, "Are you okay? You look," and even looking, they say, "You look very different." Yeah, you look very different. You look so tired. Like every Sabbath they see me in church, I look like a zombie. Yeah. For those who have known me for a long time, I remember one of my very long time friends, Yi Hui. She'll say, "Hey, are you okay or not? You don't look good." She knew me since I was like 17, 18 years old. Yeah. So they can see. So people who you know, like even in the core group, I think it is very good. Accountability partner, how do you find them? Make your core group accountability group also, for spirituality. Yeah. I think one of the issues in our church is that we are very busy doing, like even programs we do, but we never really think about a lot of the effectiveness and also depth of the things we do, right? So I was helping another church with some of their things, and so I asked, like, okay, so you do your programs and things like that. What is the purpose? They say, to reach out to people. Then I asked, then who is in charge of reaching out to the people? Then they say, we have people in charge of food, we have people in charge of the stage, we have people in charge of PA, we have people in charge of PPT. Then who is in charge of the people? Nobody is in charge of the people, right? They are very busy doing a lot of things, but they forget the purpose and the core. I think in the care group also, the core of the care group also need to know that what we are doing is God's work. Yeah. And if the spirituality or the spiritual energy is not there, then it is very hard to do. Okay, what other preventative steps can we take so accountability partner in your core group, and what other things?
I feel like as a facilitator, especially, like the ratio of the amount of time that we spend planning certain things or running certain things, I found that it needs to be balanced with personal ministry. Like, meet with people on a very personal level and to be involved in their spiritual growth in their life. Because I feel like that's a very tangible way to see God's
Yes.
Now when you're just running stuff all the time, you're just like, all you see is just events and times
Yes.
and dates and numbers, but you forget how real God can be in people's lives. So I found that the ratio for me is important.
So spending time on people, right? When you can see like transformation rather than just doing stuff, right? Doing things. I also realized like in church, sorry, it becomes like a rant session, but it's not really ranting. But in church you can see that we like to, why are we inclined to just doing stuff rather than going into personal ministry? Not everyone, but generally I think there's an inclination to that. Why?
Maybe you can feel like less commitment.
Less commitment.
You can feel like it.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Is it less commitment?
No.
I think in some ways it is less commitment. If you minister to someone personally, how long does that take? Very long, right? Easily 2 years. Minimum 2 years. You do one thing, let's say I come here to help the PowerPoint and things like that. It's a Sunday, it's a Saturday, whole day, but it's 2 days and I'm done. I minister to someone, it's not just in the care group, right? It's outside of the care group. I need to like call them, hey, how are you? Can we go Starbucks and eat for a while? Let's talk a bit. It's a lot of other time, and you need to concern, you need to go step into their zone of messiness to really care for them. That's why it is very hard. Yeah. Because in trying to do this discipleship, I realized a lot of people are very scared to step into other people's zone. Yeah. Because it is hard. It is hard work. Right? I myself, I am not inclined to that. I'm inclined to doing things. I think I can do things. I am actually bad at discipling people. Right? Sorry, I'm a discipleship director, but I say, I am bad at people. Right? You see me in church, some of you see me in church for very long. I don't, even when I'm in church, I try to turn on my mood to go and talk to other people. Hey, how are you? What's your name? What are you doing? Things like that. I try to turn on that mood. But if you see me in my natural state, I will be sitting in a corner and being very quiet. Yeah. That's my natural state. Yeah. I'm very introverted, but I know that my faith cannot be introverted. Yeah. So I think there's that balance of doing versus helping someone, or in a sense, discipling someone. Yeah. What is a good ratio for that? We talk about a ratio, right? What would be a good ratio?
3:7.
What is 3? What is 7?
Doing things 3, spending ideally to me 7 to spend time.
Wow, 30% to 70%. Yes. Okay. Any other counter offers? Auction. Do you all agree with it? Or do you all feel has to be a bit more people, or you feel like a bit more doing?
I think it encompasses both.
Encompass both. But how much of both?
Yeah,
About half?
I mean, there will be, of course, there will be people that are like introverts. Then they will say that, okay, I want to serve in a certain way, assist lah. Then of course you need the assistance to be there to make it happen. The other one will be like more outwarding, right? So they can actually work together. So it's the two parties that can join together to make it work. That's why I think in the church, God created us differently so that we can use our strength to help each other.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You want it? Just want.
I was going to say something similar, which is, I mean, we're all different, but I feel like for me, maybe my word just now was wrong, ratio. Like, I feel like you need to have at least one. Like, for me that's the thing. If I'm done with a certain Bible study, or I'm done like discipling someone for the time being, I always know that I need to have at least one person that I'm engaged with in personal ministry. And I feel like if it drops to like 0, right, then I start to get very like, oh boy, what am I doing all this for?
Yeah. So you can hear this. I think if you can imagine if the whole church embraces this execution and idea of like really personally caring for other people, like more intensely, you can say intensely, and more intentional, then church will be very different. You know, sometimes we think about things like we want to go broader. You know, we reach out to a lot of people. You know, talk to a lot of people. But actually, sometimes what we need is to go narrower, more focused on a few people. Right? I always use this example. Jesus had how many disciples? 12. And he's closer to how many? He's closer to 3 only. Right? So even Jesus is only closer to 3 of his disciples. Right? And we are not Jesus. Yeah. So I'm not saying you cannot have more than 3. Right? Jesus had 12. But deep personal relationship. Right? People cannot have like, I have 20 best friends. There's no such thing. Right? It's a lie, right? This person is a liar if they say, oh, you're my best friend, you're my best friend. Everyone is a best friend. Right? Then it doesn't make sense, right? To have a deep relationship, it takes time and energy. Yeah. So, yeah. I think very, very good point, right? Make sure you are engaging in personal ministry to at least one person. Yeah. And it doesn't mean you alone take one. Right? Some people can do that, but even like you pair up to care for one person, that's very, very good. Right? So 2 things just now we said. One is about accountability, right? Maybe in a core group. And 2, personal ministry. Any other steps we can take to prevent burnout in church? Share the workload. Okay? Share the workload, make sure it's sustainable. If you see one person trying to take too many things, maybe try to pull them back a little bit. Sometimes you also need to review, right? Are we doing too many things? Right? Are we trying to achieve too much, but actually very shallow? Or can we narrow down and go deeper? Okay. Anything else? Any other steps? We talk about 3 steps. Group affirmation.
That is whatever thing that you do, you need to affirm each other, right? So that will actually prevent burnout. Because if you do something, then you feel that you are not appreciated, or you yourself feel that it's not appreciated, then basically, then you will start to go into the burnout stage. But if someone says, wow, well done, good job, tonight you give a good so-called sharing, right? Then the affirmation will actually nurture the so-called burnout.
Yeah. So affirmation in the group, the culture of the group that you work, the working group, maybe your core group or things like that. What is the culture like? Is it very like a policeman kind of thing? Like, hey, why you never do this, why you never do that? Or is it a lot more affirmative? It's not to say don't get things done, but the things of, like, humans need this, right? Human needs affirmation. Sometimes you're not sure how you do. What you're doing is correct. You know, humans need this to feel like, oh yes, I'm on the right path. Yeah, we use this as sort of like a check post. Of course, we say that we do this not for affirmation, but affirmation helps us in this process. Oh. Okay. Any other steps you all want to suggest?
Simplification.
Simplification. Wow.
Your personal life, ministry, your work, you have to simplify.
Mm.
Live a minimalist life.
Live a minimalist life. Simplify some of the things. Okay. Any wisdom on how to simplify?
So if yesterday I shared about 3 aspects of
Mm.
your life, right? Who you are, your profession, and ministry. So we always think that ministry burn us out. That's very unfair. Actually, the other 2 could burn us out.
Mm.
Most of the time is your profession,
Mm.
because that is our first.
Yep.
So you have to be realistic. You can't have everything in life. You have to look at it objectively, whether in your professional life you can simplify.
Mm.
Instead of getting the promotion next year, can you drag it for 3 years?
Mm.
You can't have everything.
Yes.
So that is one way. Simplify your profession.
Mm.
Simplify your life. Don't live in a condo.
Mm.
Is it alright to live in a HDB? Don't do that. Yeah. Have one TV instead of 10. Hawker center instead of restaurant. That is simplification. When you live a simple life, you can manage life better.
Mm.
And don't blame ministry.
Mm. Thank you. Yeah. So there's actually a book called exactly that, Simplify. That I read a few years back. It is quite good. And I've been through this argument with myself on simplification. You know, I was thinking, okay, what is easier? To desire more or to desire less? It's easier to desire more actually. Because in some ways we are tuned towards that. Everything we see turns us towards that. Right? When we look at everywhere, like on the TV, on the internet and things like that, it's always like, hey, you need this, you need this, you need this, you need this. Right? So it turns you towards that. So simplifying is called simplifying, but it's not simple to simplify. Right? It is very hard. It is not natural to do that. Yeah. So I think this is something that is very tough. I think it's a lifelong lesson on how to simplify, how to want less. Right? Because you feel like, I want to. Everyone else is progressing. Why in the career, you know, people who came in at the same time as me, they are at a certain level. I also want to be that, right? My friends have that, right? They can afford vacations to somewhere very nice. I also want that, right? So it is that tension between more and less. And I think we really have to seek God in this journey to achieve that. Okay. Any other last thoughts on what preventative steps we can take?
Openness to feedback.
Openness to feedback. How?
Just like example, you are burnt out, right? Then someone can tell you, hey, I think you are burnt out, but you say no. Right? So you are more open. You don't want to accept the so-called the feedbacks. You know? So sometimes if you are open to this kind of feedback, then you will be something like, okay, maybe I need to check on myself again and see, maybe I need to have a counselor or things, right? So this one is like a feedback. So sometimes the feedback can be, hey, you have to do all these things, but actually can you make it more flexible or whatever thing? So if you are open to it, then of course the facilitator job become more and more easier, or more you will not be rigid, you will be more flexible. Then basically that will improve your so-called your burnout.
Okay. So attitude of being open to feedback. How do we have that?
I think it's to know our own limitation.
Know our own limitations.
Yeah. Like not overwork or something.
Mm.
Let me know that this is how much I can do. Then the rest, maybe I can trust my core member to help me to do it with me. Or it's like if we set our own limitation, then it's easy for us to manage the ministry.
Yeah. So I think the openness to feedback and understanding to your limitations, I think all these can combine together to also talk about communication in your core group. Right? So the culture again of the communication is very important. Right? So it's very also important, like we must be very open to feedback and we must also know how to give feedback. Right? We cannot just walk up to someone and say, hey, Jian, your clothes today very ugly. It's like, oh, then it's like, oh, right? So it's like what kind of feedback we give, right? And also like how we give the feedback, right? So I think that's why I think the core group has to really work closely together and see how they do things. Right? Okay. Any last thoughts before we move? Makaning soon. Okay. So makan 10:30 they say. Okay. 10 more minutes. Okay. So preventing burnout. So a few things I'll just address. First is meaning, value, impact. Right? What is important? So in church, you want to see transformation, basically. Right? God's word transforming someone's lives. So I think just now we talked about a lot of things related to this. I think especially about personal ministry, you need to know preventing burnout. Second layer, workload. Is it reasonable? Is it according to the strengths? Right? There's a part where you do the stuff, but we talk about helping people, but there's also stuff that we need to do, right? It's very nice to say about helping people, but people need to organize things. People need to book this ballroom. People need to set up the PA, the PPT. There are things that need to be done. And that one have to try to be strength-based and also reduce as needed, right? Don't make it too complicated. Sometimes you have to recognize who we are and where we are, right? So for example, as a church or as a conference or as a small group, we need to see what is our size and how we do things, right? So for example, in Singapore, our church size is about 1,000, 1,200 on average, the attendance, right? We can't duplicate something, a 50,000 member country, right? So things like that, right? It's like McDonald's and a coffee shop. Right? McDonald's, they have people frying their fries, there are people at the cashier, there are people at the back, there are people at the dessert counter, right? But at a coffee shop, sometimes it's 2 persons doing everything. And they have to simplify and reduce some of their work to do that. Yeah, so we have to do that. And thirdly, support, right? A spiritual community, which in small groups are your core groups. You have to hold on to them and let them hold on to you. Yes.
One of the support systems that many of us use is if you come from a Christian home, your home is yourself. Don't always think that you need to look to the church for support.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your parents are your best support. So in the family circle of friends,
Yes.
it is very powerful. And your parents can tell whether you're burning out or not. They will pray for you and they will know how to pull you back. So don't neglect that
Yes.
parental support.
Yes. Yes. Even sometimes non-Christian parents, they can notice that. Even when I was burnt out, my parents noticed that. Yeah, they say, hey, why you look like you are very tired? Or you are very miserable doing this. So sometimes they say things like that. Of course, they don't mean it in that way, but they are just concerned. Right? And you realize, okay, when they notice that, because they see you more often, they don't see me that often. Yeah, like once every week or once every 2 weeks, But it is something that we can rely on, God's gift for family, right? So do not say some things. I think there are some things we need to know, don't do, right? Don't say, you just need to pray more. Don't say like, your relationship with God is bad, or it's a spiritual issue, right? Sometimes we tend to shift towards that. We feel like, this person stray away from God already. But how did this person go from serving God faithfully to being more distant from God? I think sometimes we forget the reason and we don't address the issue. So this don't really help, right? Don't ignore signs of burnout, right? And don't simply remove the person from your group. Say, this person is no longer active. I don't want to help them. I've been talking to a member. Yeah, I'm thinking how to say it. So he feels like, he don't get supported. He says that, I feel like all the church wants for me is for me to do things. When I appear, they just ask me, hey, can you do this? Can you do that? When I join a care group, they ask me, can you do this? Can you do that? Can you do this? Then I feel like I'm just a tool that is being used. Yeah. So sometimes we don't mind being that, but we have to be careful not to treat people like that. First, treat them as people, see where they are, and if they are willing to help, do that. But on the flip side, I also tell him that people don't know. People don't know you feel that way. People don't know you don't feel supported. People feel you're okay and you are ready to serve. Right? So if you don't tell people, or you keep it to yourself, then you will die, right? You will just feel very resentful and cynical. So also when you feel that way, tell your group people, you say, hey, I'm very stretched recently. Give me 3 months to just be a part of the group. Yeah. So open up the communication and also see how you can do. Yeah. So both ways, helping people, but when you are struggling, when you are drowning, you can ask for help. Okay. So anything else you all feel not to do when someone is burning out or when you are burning out? Not to say yes all the time. Okay. Set boundaries. I think this is a very important thing, but it is very, very hard to do. Especially for people who are dedicated, who are serving. It is very hard. Because that's their tendencies, right? That's their inclinations. That's why they are really serving. Yeah. So have to learn that. It's somewhat a learned skill to say no. Yeah. Yeah. Because life is I say this in Chinese first. 人生是取舍的练习, right? Life is a practice of give and take, right? When you are giving in some way, you are taking from another place. Right? So if you decide one thing, you are giving up on other things. So if you are saying yes to something, you are actually saying no to other things. Right? So we have to recognize sometimes these things. Yeah. It's not that you are just saying yes. Sometimes you say yes to helping out so many things, you're actually saying no to a few other people that you can be ministering to that could be more impactful, but you don't recognize it. Yeah. Okay, any other things that do not do? If not, we go to the last part. Any questions, answers, questions or thoughts?
I just want to share an experience on just as an illustration of giving and taking. Most of you know I have a brother, Dr. Farmer, who is a medical missionary doctor now in Africa, in Tokyo. In the earlier part of his life, he only knows how to give and don't know how to receive. And we find it very weird because he finds it so uneasy when people are trying to be nice to him. Then until we all tak boleh tahan already lah, as siblings, I would say, brother, you must also learn how to appreciate others people give how to care for you like that. I mean, I think mentally he understands it, but he just couldn't learn how to accept. But now he has changed. Happy for him. While he's giving, he also learned how to receive the goodness of people. I think that is very important, especially for very dedicated Christians who only want to serve but don't know how to receive.
I think as a follower, your discipleship, you should offer to the church members how to build up your resilience. You know? When you build up your resilience, it's a preventive measure against burnout.
Yeah.
And resilience is basically mind shift.
Yes.
Look at things differently. Things don't change. You just look at it from a different angle. And that helps you to handle a lot of things. Mindset.
Yes.
I mean, on that same note, actually, I was thinking about how I feel like, especially since my generation, and maybe the generations after me as well, what I've noticed is that for the rhythm of ministry, right, we have become a lot more accustomed to trying to do things in sprints. We go really hard, really fast, then we like, then we go, and then we flatten again. And the more we do that, what I see is that the intervals between them shorten and shorten and shorten. And the sprints that we run shorten as well. So we can go shorter, faster, for a shorter amount of time each time. But I don't think that is what God really intends for us with our ministry and our life. Maybe it is a race, maybe it is a marathon, right? It could be seen as such. But I feel like that rhythm is very destructive to our well-being. Because I think when I'm sprinting, I don't really stop by the water booth and drink from God. I just go really hard. Then I think after that I'll drink. But that's not really how it works.
Yeah.
And I think like any marathon runner, you need to kind of like go and like, oh hey, there you go. And you kind of keep going. Yeah. But they can keep going somehow. Right? And I think that's the resilience part. That reliance on God and to not just be so focused on I want to go really fast, really far. Yeah. I think that's the rhythm that I've seen in my generation and the ones after us. I think Sean's generation will have it harder still.
Yeah. And that is the younger generation lifestyle. Because everything is done in short spurts. Yeah. They nowadays can't sit through a lecture. Sermons is so long, you lose them. You really lose them. So they are used to short spurt because of the life lifestyle, education system, and then everybody live in just but then we the church needs to learn how to relate to this stuff.
We recently I've been reading on this. Actually, the rhythms of work and rest in the Bible. As Seventh-day Adventists, actually, we should know this more. But somehow we don't know this, right? God created the world in how many days? 6 days, and then rest 1 day. 6 days, rest 1 day. And not even that, when working, right, into the Israelites, they work 6 years, they rest 1 year. They work 6 years, they rest 1 year. So actually God has a whole rhythm to how things should work. But we forget to recapture that. You know, how we work 6 days, then we come to church, we work 1 more day again. We just work a different thing. So the rest part, not just physical rest, but spiritual rest. You know, how in a community, how we get together, we worship God, we really reconnect with God. I think that part cannot be lost. Yeah. And as Seventh-day Adventists, we really need to claim that. Yeah. Okay. Any last thoughts before we close? Okay. If not, let us all stand for a word of prayer. Dear Lord, we thank you for this time we can come together and have this workshop on how to prevent burnout as facilitators. We are thankful for the people here today in this workshop and the other workshop. We pray that as we go back, we will be able to utilize what we have learned, not just to do, but also to rest. Not just to work, but also to be with other people. So help us to recapture what you have taught us in your word. Help us not to burn out in our endeavor to serve you, because we know that this work belongs to you. And Lord, we are here. Use us as you will. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.